to Super Talk Show. It's so nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Heidi. It's really nice to be here on the show.
Yeah, thank you for joining us all the way from Pakistan, and it's really late for you right now. So thank you for joining us again. And personally, I know you from the UN ECOSOC forum, and I think you are a news anchor at PTV World, which is crazy because you're actually on camera for news reporting, and it's so nice to have you here with us. I want to start asking you, like, what's your personal background and how did you get to, journalism in the first place?
Okay, so that's really interesting. And firstly, yes, I remember the UN EcoSoc was a really great way to meet some really brilliant young people from across the world. And I landed some really, really nice friendships as well. And one of them was with yours. So what my background is really interesting. I started doing MUNs, Model United Nations, a lot. Yeah, I think you did that too. So I did a lot of MUNs, Model United Nations. I was actually meant to be a doctor. That's super interesting because my oldest sister, she's a doctor as well. So my parents were like, "Hey, why don't you be a doctor as well?" So the oldest and the youngest would be doctors. So I appeared for my exams. I didn't want to do it at that time anymore, but I just did it for the name so everybody can know that I passed the exams. So I started doing MUNs in my high school. I did a lot of them. I've won a lot of accolades, a lot of best delegates, and I became the head of the delegation. So that was pretty cool. And after that, I just realized that this is where I want to be. I want to go into international relations. I want to go somewhere where actually I want to discuss the diplomacy. I want to know what's going on in the world. I want to know how to bring up those right questions to ask from the world community as well. And that's how I actually got this interest in journalism as well. And after that, I gave my exams for medicine. I passed them as well. I did not get into one college, but the rest I did. But then I left it because that was not my future and I did not see myself there. And then I decided to take a degree in history, English literature, and IR. So IR and history were basically my core subjects. And that's where, then I did a degree in strategic and nuclear studies, which is basically strategic studies. It was more about the security affairs of the international community. And then right now, currently, I'm doing MPhil in defense and strategic studies as well. So what I want to be is a journalist who is an international security journalist, an international relations journalist, right? So I want to know what my genre is and I want to continue with that path instead of being a journalist of everything, right? Journalism was very interesting. It actually knocked on my door in itself rather than me going and appearing for an audition when I wanted to. I actually applied for a journalistic writing position in a very reputed newspaper over here in Pakistan, and I got in as well. So I was studying in university at that time, and it was Express Tribune. I got into it as well, but then their office shifted from the capital where I live to Karachi, where I used to live previously.
Oh.
And when that happened, I realized that I'm already studying here. I cannot leave my studies and go over there right now. So I decided to stay back. I had to leave that job, of course. Very, very saddening for me. But then that's where I developed interest in research as well. I went to the National Assembly and somehow people thought my voice quality was good. And I got offer for voiceovers. And that was very interesting for me because none of my family member told me my voice was good. So that's when I realized that, hey, PTV World, the English offshoot, is in Islamabad. And then somehow, I took an audition. I was invited to give an audition for news anchoring. And usually it takes a lot of time, 7 months. Some people took 3 months, some people took 7 months, some even took a year or more to keep, giving auditions and then get into the channel in itself. But I took only 3 weeks. So that was pretty cool. And I gave the first audition. That was great. It went absolutely wonderful. The second audition is where I got a bit scared because, you see the camera and then there's a little red light on it. When that turned on, I was like, hey, this is the real deal. So I said, hey, I don't want to do the audition today. Like, can we postpone it? They were like, sure, why not? So I went there. I gave myself a pep talk. I said, I can do it. I've been made for this. I've been anchoring different events and hosting different events all my life. I've been partaking in debates, declamation. I won my first declamation contest when I was an 8-year-old, and that was literally the first one that I ever took part in.
Oh,
And then I started doing MUNs. I've been a parliamentary debater, and now I'm getting scared. Why? So I gave myself the pep talk. I came out the next day stronger than ever, and I got in.
wow, that's so cool. Um, I have so many questions. I think this is a really like amazing example for like young people like myself and the super audience. So personally, how I envision this job, I think it's really competitive to win the audition in the first place and to get, you know, a position that's so prestigious and probably so many people want it. So how do you get over, I guess, have you seen the competitors who were competing during the audition, and how do you, I don't know, how do you succeed?
Okay, so that's actually a really interesting question. I'm glad you put it that way as well, because this is a question I don't receive a lot, and I should. Um, Interestingly, I had a lot of competitors with me as well. There was there were about 4 other women, female news anchors who were auditioning with me, and I must say they were absolutely wonderful. I don't know why they didn't get a job. I think they were personally, I think they were awesome. And then there were a lot of male anchors who were coming and giving auditions. So it was very, very overwhelming. It was overwhelming when I was giving the audition. How I landed the position was very interesting because so I think networking is also something very important. I was hosting an event as well at the national. It was my university event. It was actually a national conference. So they selected me to host it, and there I met this very renowned journalist who said that I should go into anchoring and I should consider that. And then he introduced me to the person who was actually in charge of this particular channel, and this is a state TV, right? And it's the only English channel. So that was very exciting. That was very, very exciting. And then I had some other networking opportunities as well, where there was a reestablishing of the fact that they saw my face again and again, and they saw me talking again and again. So I think that's something very important, to be able to brand yourself. I think branding oneself is super, super important. If you are visible to others, people are going to recognize you. When they recognize you, you will have opportunities. You won't have to apply for opportunities, you're going to be invited to apply. And sometimes when you get experienced, when you're actually experienced enough, you're going to have offers without having applied for a job. And I think that's something I've always been aiming at. And I think I was at the right place at the right time for that matter. But then while auditioning, yes, it was kind of a daunting task because there were so many other people, brilliant people auditioning as well. And I believe they were taking everything into account, the confidence. So they gave us a couple of tests. We had, of course, reading the news in itself. Then we had extempore. So we were supposed to also, do the breaking news just a little bit. And then we also had, just try to learn, see who has a more learning curve, etc., etc. So there was a lot of communication with the producers, the heads, and of course, the committee in itself of the news anchors. So that was very interesting. I don't know why they selected me. I'm honestly not sure, but I believe I had the motivation to continue doing it. I was going there every day to practice. I was going there for 3 weeks. I felt that I wanted to be a part of the organization, so I gave my time voluntarily, not for a certificate. I gave my time to other aspects as well. For instance, I volunteered for an event which was happening, so I helped arrange that. Um, so they knew that this person is trustworthy, this person is trying her best. And I think it was not just the auditions, they also saw my motivation to continue with other things as well. So I think that kind of helped me take the edge, because everybody's amazing, you just need that little edge.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good answer to the question. And I want to go back to your point about like, I heard you did a little bit of a breaking news stimulation. And this is like something I've wondered since I was really young, like watching the news. Um, do you like when you have a breaking news situation or actually on your daily basis as a news anchor, do you memorize your script or do you see it like next to the camera that's filming you? What's going on behind the scenes?
So Heidi, I really want to keep it a secret, but I won't. I won't for you. So interestingly, what happens is every channel is different. Internationally, even for breaking news, you have the script coming on. For the entire news bulletin, we have a script that's coming on, right? And the camera is right there, and then the prompter is in front of the camera, and it's transparent. So the script that comes, the camera doesn't catch it,
Cool.
so we can read it, but the camera doesn't catch it. So it's really interesting. I can show you a picture later on as well. So that's how we read the news. But for breaking news at my channel, the standard is different, right? We don't have written scripts for the breaking news. So it's all extempore. It's all on the spot because things happen. The world changes. So we need to be equipped with knowledge. I'm not an economy fan. I'm not a person who knows much about economy and business. But
Mhm.
as a news anchor, I have to. So I do try to read a bit about everything. So I'm able to formulate questions. So what happens sometimes is when there's a breaking news, for instance, it could be about anything. It could be a political situation, domestic situation. It could be about a bomb blast in Afghanistan. It could be about martyrdom of some soldiers due to maybe a stampede. For instance, today in Tunisia had a stampede in the football ground as well, and 125 people died. So anything, literally anything. For instance, the UN, something big happens at the UN. Any breaking news, right? So after the breaking news, we have live interviews, and we call them beeper. So then we start taking in beepers. And okay, so at our channel, other channels might be different. At our channel, we do not have preconceived questions. We have to build the questions right on the spot.
Wow.
So I really enjoy that because I've always been somebody who loved talking extempore, who loved using her brain. And I think this is the best moment to use my brain and actually formulate the questions that I want to ask. And sometimes they're tough, sometimes not so much. That's something where sometimes it's just I want to understand what they're trying to tell me and understand the entire situation. So sometimes we take reporters, sometimes analysts. So I believe that that situation is really, really interesting for me. Breaking news. The rest is kind of monotonous because we're just reading the news,
Mhm.
but it's as exciting.
I see. But my question also is like when you're reading, wouldn't the camera see that you're reading the news? Or like how many times do you practice before you actually go live? That so that you can speak fluently, when it's live.
Yeah. Okay, so this is really interesting. To be a news anchor means to be a news presenter rather means that you need to know the art of reading. If you read like this, then people will know, right? But
Mhm.
if you're going to act like the situation demands you to act, then people won't know. So what happens is if there's a sad situation, we have to mellow down ourselves. If there's a happy situation, we bring ourselves up and we, lighten our moods. If there's a fun situation, then we read it in a fun way. So it's all about how the news anchor presents the news because we're not reading the news, we're presenting the news. So we
Mhm.
have to be equipped with that knowledge. I think that's why there are auditions beforehand, and then earlier they put you in the late night shift would start. Mine started from 12 a.m. until 6 a.m. in the morning. So that was like for a good 3-4 months I stayed in that shift, and then
Wow.
afterwards the shifts changed. So yeah, it's a 24/7. Today's a Sunday, and I was working. So it's a 24/7. And now for the past 1.5 year, I've been in the prime time shift, which has been brilliant for me because, I've only joined like 3.5 years ago. So that's been great so far. And the thing is, you need to earn the trust of people. And when people trust you, they're going to watch your news. When people watch your news, they would want to put you in a better time slot. So it's all about the games that you play, right? And yeah, about the reading part. So you have to be very, very equipped with the knowledge. You have to prepare yourself enough to be able to read it well. Earlier, when I joined, I used to read the bulletin at least 2 times before I went live. So the entire bulletin is an hour long, right? and it takes at least 40 minutes to read the entire bulletin, because all of the news from domestic and then per international, and then it goes on to entertainment, and then it goes on to sports. And earlier we did not have a sports anchor, a separate sports anchor, and we had to read the sports news as well. And that was the hardest part for me, because sports news does not really excite me. I'm not much of a sporty. But yeah, that was really, really interesting. I used to read it twice, but now I don't read it. I just go live.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I just go
I
live.
would have a heart attack personally if I
I
before.
just go live. It's so much fun. And sometimes, when I don't read the bulletin beforehand, it's a lot more fun to read the news, because you find out the news as well, and your reactions are so, I guess, genuine. So I don't read the news anymore. Sometimes I do. Sometimes when I feel like there is a lot more time, because we have to be there at least an hour earlier in the newsroom, because there might be a breaking news that might come, and there are a lot of breaking news in Pakistan, by the way. And also we have to get our makeup done, so it takes a good 30 minutes to get the makeup done. For some people it takes because they have to get their hair done. Luckily I don't have to get my hair done, so for people who have to get their hair done, that's another 15-30 minutes. So we have to be there, we have to get our makeup done. And sometimes reading is great. Sometimes for me it's just more fun going live without reading. But yeah, I do have the news items, stories in front of me while I'm reading, just in case something really comes up.
That's interesting. Another quick question popped up. Do someone get your makeup done, or do you get your own makeup done?
Like, do I do my own makeup, or does somebody do the?
Yeah.
Oh, we have makeup artists. We have makeup artists. We have professional. Yeah,
Whoa.
we have professional makeup artists. They do our makeup today. I did my own because my professional makeup artist was not feeling well, and I do not like to put, because they're humans too, right? So there were two of them. One of them is good at hair. The other was on a holiday, and then the third one. There are usually three in the shift, and
Wow.
the third one, she had a really bad leg, so she couldn't stand for a while. She had a swollen leg, so I just asked her to sit down and I'll do my makeup myself. So today I've done it myself, but usually it's super heavy. It's so crazy. It's very heavy, and they do it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's so cool. And like before, you mentioned that each of the news bulletin, it's about 40 minutes long, and sometimes before you would read it like twice. So I want to ask a question that personally I'm interested in, and I'm pretty sure all the super audience, like high school student age, we're all really interested in. How do you manage your time every day? I know like you have so much stuff on your table. You've interviewed crazy people like ex-prime ministers of Pakistan, and you've seen the first lady of Pakistan. Um, I guess like with so much stuff on your plate, how do you make sure you have enough time to sleep, and you have like a good work-life balance?
I don't.
Well,
I think that's the best answer towards it. I don't. And that's something unfortunate. But also, what is work-life balance, Heidi? When you love your work so much, do you really want to balance your life when work is all your life? Okay, I'm just kidding. You need to have work-life balance, and you need to have downtime to yourself. You need to have time for family. You need to have time for your hobbies, right? But for me, it's a bit different. Maybe this is not what your super audience should hear or might want to hear. But for me, my personal experience has been a bit different, because I believe that if I work very hard, and if I give a lot more hours right now to my work and my career, I will be able to build myself stronger in my 30s, for instance, and when I go into my 40s, and then when I go into my 50s, and I wouldn't have to work as hard, and I would be able to give a lot more time to my family, for instance. And if I have children, then maybe to my children, right? So that's what I'm aiming at right now. I just want to build my career. I love my career. I love working hard. I love the opportunities that my career brings for me. Interviewing different people is very interesting. Sometimes I just volunteer to, for instance, make a report. I'm not a reporter, but I would love to go out in the field, and they send me in the field whenever I want to. So that's great as well. And also, you have a great personal relation, a great networking opportunity because of this as well. So I think that's something it's been giving me, and that's kind of become my life. And I know I have a goal, right? So after a couple of years, I would give myself downtime. But for now, it's
Mhm.
time to hustle. So I'm just gonna continue hustling. But yes, of course. With that said, I do believe that everybody, because that really stresses you out. It does. It stresses me out a lot. And there are a lot of mental health issues that you might come across as well when you work so much. But with that said, I do think that everybody should give themselves some time and give their mental health some time. For instance, taking up a hobby that you like, completely shutting off work for at least once or twice a week, and giving some time to your family, and just sleeping. My sleep routine isn't so bad. My sleep hours actually aren't so bad. My routine is terrible because I have sh- I have a bulletin at 6 p.m., the major big bulletin. Then I have another one at 9 p.m., which is like really, you know, it's evening, it's night. And then I come back and it's usually 11:30, 12 a.m. And then I sleep at least 2 hours later. So at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., because I need some time to myself as well. So I just literally mindlessly scroll through social media or do something that I had to do or get some work done. So that's true. But then again, yes, I would recommend your audience to take some bit of a downtime. But yes, hustling is definitely important.
That makes sense. And I also want to ask because when I was scrolling through your Instagram account, I saw like so many cool people that you've interviewed. Can you list some of the cool people you've actually seen or like interact with? Because I feel like there's so many of them. And also, how do you keep like, I don't know, like how do you handle yourself when you meet like really prestigious people like that?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever had an issue with that. Interestingly, when I really, really, for instance, there's this famous musician that I really like, and
Hmm.
I met him once because my friend knew I really liked him and everything, so she got me to meet him in Pakistan. He's a very famous musician in Pakistan, a singer, really. And when I met him, I was completely blank. I didn't know what to say. But on the contrary, when I met with the president's wife, the president of Pakistan's wife, that is the first lady, or the foreign minister, or the now he's the ex-foreign minister, but at that time he was still the foreign minister, the president of Islamic Development Bank, which is the second biggest bank of the world after the World Bank, and I'm just able to keep my cool, I guess. I That's my profession, so I'm I'm good at my work. I think that's the simplest answer towards it. I love my work and I enjoy it. I don't feel the jitters. I don't feel the butterflies. I don't feel scared. I used to, and I think I should tell about how I overcame with that. I think with time, practice, and then knowing that you can do it. Just believing in yourself, that it's not big of a deal. They're also human beings, right?
Hmm.
Once upon a time, they might have been at your position because
Hmm.
many of the famous politicians have been journalists as well. So they might have been at your position. They might be feeling jitters, but now they're at that position. So you're both humans, you're both equal. They might be politicians with big portfolios, but you're also a human being and you're trying to do best in your life. So yeah,
Hmm.
and I think there's this one tip that I've always followed. I'm a bit religious, right? So I'm moderately religious. So I put my hand over here and take God's name, right? So God is great. I say God is great 3 times. So
Hmm.
it makes me feel a lot more calm and control, I guess.
Hmm. That makes sense. And also, just to end off this interview, you've given like so many good tips already. A question I ask all my guests is like, if there's one piece of advice that you could leave to our super audience, or like one quote from you, what would it be?
Okay, so Heidi, this is something really interesting. I would say that if I can give a few tips, maybe not a quote, but I can give a few tips. Communication is the key. Confidence is the key. If you communicate with confidence, you are going to be. So the thing is, you need to stand out in the entire crowd in one way or the other, and you have to be yourself to stand out. You don't have to try and pick up different personalities entirely to try and stand out. No, just be confident in who you are, communicate with people, network as much as you can, and communicate with people. Try to understand their opinion. Genuine connections, not superficial connections where you just want to benefit and then you just disappear. No, genuine connections where you actually learn from people. And if they think you're worth it after a year, 2 years, 5 years down the lane, they will give you some benefit. Maybe they won't. They will give you an advice in life which would help you, right? So genuine connections, hustling, knowing that you can do it, and staying motivated, I guess, in your work, loving yourself in your work. So there's quite many tips, I believe. If you follow that, I'm pretty sure you'll go great in life all your super years.
Mhm. Thank you so much for these all these great tips and for your time, although it's like already past midnight for you. Um, yeah, thank you so much for being on Super Talk Show. And I'm sure like myself, I benefited a lot from these advice, and I'm sure all the super audience have learned a lot today.
Thank you, Heidi, for having me. I had a great time conversing with you, and it's okay if it's past midnight. I'm still in my work mode, so I'm enjoying. I had a lot of fun with you.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.